Hello, welcome back. Another live stream. Welcome back to another beginner character creation live stream. This is where I actually go through the basics with you. If you are sort of not familiar with the whole process, for those of you who have done a bit of this, you probably won't find this quite so useful. But if you're not a player and you're a dungeon master and you're dealing with new players, you may want to send them in the direction of this video or live stream to assist them in the process of building their character. I think you'll find that I won't be going for an OP character. I will be going for giving you just the basics and then you make decisions after that. Okay, so I'm going to put up a poll right now. Now, for those of you who are here and have been through this before and done this particular lesson, which of course none of you have because this will be the first time, I'll go through the basics. I then will focus in on the Sorcerer rather than other classes. And my intention with this is that we will actually make a character. So I have a slideshow, do the slideshow, open up to Q&A or questions and answers at the end of that, and then we build a character with the vast majority of our time with your input as part of the audience, okay? And if, as I said, if you're a dungeon master, my advice is point your players in this direction. Now, if you are a player trying to build your first character, this is what I suggest you do. Either have your phone or your laptop or your computer open, and either have a paper version or something that you can make notes on when you're figuring out what you're going to do with your sorcerer, okay? Because I'm going to give you some basics around that sort of thing. If you're trying to do this, build your character online, then maybe have your phone out and have your laptop open and you build your character on your laptop and you listen to me on your phone. Or your desktop computer open and your phone is going to be what you listen to, or something like that, okay? Because we're going to actually build a character, and you probably want to be doing it with me rather than after the fact. Okay, so let's get straight into the whole process. All right, let's shift that over. I do apologise for being a little bit late today. I was updating a few slides. Okay. Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Weller and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. This lesson is actually not so much about dragons or sorcerers, although we will certainly be talking about the sorcerer today. This is a Dungeons and Dragons 5e lesson plan 1, I'm calling it. This is the beginner character creation process. This is the sort of thing that you need to sort of understand when you're first starting out with 5e. And we are going to be focusing in really hard on the sorcerer. Not to build an OP character, not to build an optimized character, not to build a power build of anything like that, just to give you the basics so that you know what to do, so you don't do something that sort of isn't going to work for the class. All right, so what's the overview for today? We're going to cover the character creation pre-checklist, some things you need to do before you even start. We're going to cover the character creation, or should I say the character sheet formats. For that character creation process, there are some different formats that you can use, so I'll discuss them very briefly. Character creation basic steps. There are some steps that you take, and we'll follow those as best we can. Some advanced character details, so I'll discuss them very briefly. Some miscellaneous recommendations. And then lastly, the character class essentials for the sorcerer today. Rather than anything else, that's what I'm going to focus in on, is that one class, the sorcerer, so that you have the information that you need if you couldn't find it somewhere. The objectives is I'm going to explain everything. I'm going to demonstrate this whole process. I'm going to use D&D Beyond for this particular tutorial today, rather than other options. And of course, I want to get you to participate and practice. It's very important that you actually go through the process of doing it yourself. You can actually build your characters online on D&D Beyond. They do have a character builder. It is available for free, but the vast majority of the options that are available in the game are requiring you to be paid for. There are plenty of character builders out there that are software-based that don't require you to pay anything, and you don't need to use D&D Beyond. I'm just using it because it's an easy format, and I know a lot of people are using it. And I did actually ask to see if that was sort of the format that most people wanted to use. Okay, let's go into the character creation pre-check. These are the things that we need to sort of cover first before we get, well, basically into the nuts and bolts of building the character. I want you to check with your dungeon master what player character options are available for the game before running, okay? Before the game is actually run, you need to go and ask your dungeon master, what can I use? What house rules does the Dungeon Master have? Because a lot of Dungeon Masters do in fact have a house rule or house rules, and it's usually not just around playing the game, although that would be helpful to know as well, but also around character creation. A lot of the way that a Dungeon Master operates in terms of how they run the game will change your decisions in terms of character creation on the mechanical aspect. It probably won't affect you in terms of lore and flavor and narrative, but mechanically it may change your decisions. Build the character for the campaign on the information provided. So your Dungeon Master should normally give you some information, not everything, about your campaign. So build the character for that campaign rather than for something else that you had in mind. And if they don't give you information, then you need to ask for information. Ask for the relevant details that will allow you to know about the adventure, not all of it, but to at least get you started or that campaign so that your character fits the game. So if they don't give it to you, you're going to ask that question. Next, character creation always starts as a group discussion. Like, it is a group game, so you need to do everything as a group. So my advice to you is, when you have that session 0, even if you don't have a session 0, have a discussion with the other players, because a character is part of a team. It's part of a group machine. It's a bit like playing sports or playing a team sport. So you need to have a discussion about how you're going to do this. That doesn't mean that what other people want you to play is what you play, but you need to at least have a good idea of what other people are doing so you can sort of fit in with all of that. Design characters around the 3 pillars of play. Don't just focus in on combat, because you're going to spend a lot of time in your game more than likely exploring. So exploration is a big factor, so build a character that can do this. And also social interaction. There will be aspects of the game that don't require mechanical benefits, but in some cases Dungeon Masters will require you to have a mechanical benefit to be more successful when you do this sort of thing. So if you want to be part of that part of the game, then you need to make sure you build your character to be able to achieve those things. And then of course, finally, combat will be another aspect of the game. So 3 pillars to design around. You need to ask what ability score method is going to be used and when. So are you going to use point buy? Are you going to use the standard array system, which is in the player's handbook, or are you going to roll for all of your ability scores? And when can you roll those dice? Normally, Dungeon Masters require you to roll in front of them rather than behind a closed door or wall, or when you had a free moment and nobody else was around. That's probably the wrong time to be rolling that stuff. Do that in front of the Dungeon Master in the group. Determine what hit point method is going to be allowed and when. So are you using the average? There is a couple of Dungeon Masters who will be using just averages and won't allow for dice rolling. And then there'll be other Dungeon Masters that will allow you to roll for your hit points when you level up. Each time you level up, you get more hit points. And so you'll be rolling for those. When you start out, you get max. You get your max hit points that you would normally get allocated for that particular class. But then again, here's another problem, is if you are going to roll, you need to make sure you're rolling at the appropriate time. Roll in front of your Dungeon Master. They won't be they won't appreciate it if you try to do that in your spare time before the game when they're not around. So do that in front of the group. Okay, so that's the basics. That's all of your pre-check stuff that you need to get through and make sure that you've got that stuff lined up reasonably well before we go anywhere. There's a couple of different ways that you can look at building your character. There's different character sheet formats that are available to you. And it's up to you what you prefer. Some Dungeon Masters will stipulate particular types of character sheet formats that they prefer, but you have your standard paper character sheet with pencil. Try not to write on the character sheet in pen because you'll need to rub things out, so use a pencil. You can use a fillable PDF character sheet. There are plenty of those available. You'll find some of them on the official Dungeons & Dragons website and other websites that you can fill in and then save. You need to make sure you select the option to sign it, and then you can save that document, go back and make changes. You can also use D&D Beyond, their character builder, or you could use a third-party character builder on your phone or your computer. There's plenty of those around as well. So a lot of different options available to you. Okay, character creation basic steps. What are the basic steps we're going to take when building our character? It kind of looks like this. I'm going to run this through this. This is fairly simple. Most of this you'll find is in the player's handbook, but I will go through it anyway. Select the level of your character that you're starting at and write that on the character sheet. You'll usually start at level 1, but some Dungeon Masters don't start at level 1. They'll start at level 3 or level 5. So make sure you have a discussion with the Dungeon Master. What level will I be starting at? So what level do I need to build my character to? Select the class for your character and write down the relevant details on the character sheet. Classes, you'll find all of that in the Player's Handbook on page 45 through to page 119. Classes are just an aspect of the game, so don't get too caught up in what's the right class to play. Okay, it's really going to be down to you. There's actually nothing wrong with any of the classes to a certain degree. Next, select the race for your character and write down the relevant details on your character sheet. The races you'll find in the Player's Handbook on page 17 to 43. I know some people will change the order. They'll do the race first and then the class. It really doesn't matter too much. Okay, you're doing most of these things all at about the same time. Then you're going to select a background for your character. Write down the relevant details on the character sheet. You'll find all the backgrounds that in the Player's Handbook on page 125 to 141. Now, given all of that, there are other supplements, and I will talk very briefly about that. But let's keep going. Select a feat for your character if you get any, or one. Okay, write down the relevant details on your character sheet again. Not everybody is going to be getting a feat at level 1. Okay, in many cases you'll find you usually don't, unless you're playing a human variant, or you're playing with some of the playtest material that's currently out. So select feats, because you may not be starting at level 1, you may be starting at level 5, and if you're a level 5, there's quite often the opportunity to use feats. Also check with your Dungeon Master that they actually allow feats in their game. Most Dungeon Masters do, but not all. Okay. Now, the last aspect of this is determining the character ability scores. You'll find that you need to just sort of figure out what method is going to be approved by the Dungeon Master. There are 3 different methods listed in the Player's Handbook on page 12 to 13. And I would suggest making sure you determine your strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. These power the whole game and they power your character. Now, there are plenty of other options outside of the Player's Handbook and what I've just talked about and where you could find stuff, such as Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, Xanathar's Guide to Everything, and there are other supplements out there that you can pull from. Even something like Monsters of the Multiverse has a lot of race stuff in there. Some of the campaign setting books will have material in there as well. So you just need to have a talk with your Dungeon Master, just how wide is the basket you can draw from. I'm going to try to stick to everything that's in the Player's Handbook. I'm assuming that you have not gone to a lot of expense and you are starting. Therefore, I don't want to give you too much information. Okay? All right. The advanced details on your character sheet. These are the things you usually fill out last rather than first. And they are broken down into the following. Select your spells for your character if you have any. If you're playing a spellcaster, you'll have spells you need to select. Write them the relevant details on your character sheet. You'll find spells in the Player's Handbook on page 207 to 289. My advice to you is, unless you want to write out the entire description of the spell, it might be smart to actually write the page number to reference where you need to go to look up the details for that spell, particularly as you learn the game. If you don't remember how the spell works, is putting a little, when you put your spell on your character sheet, write the page number as a reference right beside it so that you can go and find that page quickly in the Player's Handbook. Select or buy equipment for your character. Write down the relevant details on the character sheet again. You'll find equipment is in the Player's Handbook on page 143 to 161. My advice to you, like most things that I say here, and that is, I would go with a combination. I would use the selection options. There's some pre-selection options for your character. And then any money you have left over, then go spend some of that money and get some more equipment. You'll find that's probably the easiest way to build a character rather than just taking the gold value and trying to figure out what you need. Selecting ability, calculating. All the calculation in terms of math. So calculating your ability modifier, your proficiency bonus, your skill modifiers, your saving throw modifiers, what your armor class is going to be, your hit points, your initiative, passive perception, weapon attacks, and the bonuses associated with that. the weapon damage formula for whatever you're using, whether it's a spell or a weapon, spell attack bonuses, spell saving difficulty classes, all that maths, you do that last, okay? And the last thing I want to mention, it's not vital, but it's kind of nice to do, and that is either select or draw a character portrait. As I said, not vital, but it does help connect you and the concept you had in your imagination to a physical medium, which is a piece of paper. And that's probably the basics in terms of building a character, which you might think, well, that was pretty obvious if I read through the player's handbook, but I'm going through this because sometimes people miss this sort of stuff. And as I said, this is supposed to be designed for beginners. Now, some miscellaneous recommendations. I think probably a lot of people get caught up in what they have to do because that would be optimal or that would be the most powerful build to apply to the game, and that's not what you need to do, okay? The character backgrounds can be anything you want, so there's no need to select the optimal or optimized pre-made background, as you can actually make your own and adjust the existing pre-made backgrounds. This exists even in the current version of the game. A lot of people miss that paragraph or that little sentence at the back of the background section. You can make your own backgrounds, okay? You just need to have sign-off from the Dungeon Master to do so. And this is probably going to wind up becoming the default when the new version of D&D comes into print. What race you select no longer has any real bearing on the character, particularly if you're using the new upgraded details from Tasha's, because they're quite flexible. And you can also kind of create your own race. You just need sign off from a dungeon master to do so. They'll give you some parameters to work to, and you can make your own race. And one of the things that you'll find is there is a thing called the custom lineage, which is kind of supposed to be like it's like a race or a species in some respects. And that's what I'm really talking about. That's only really going to apply if you're using Tasha's Cauldron of Everything and the stuff that's in there. But certainly it's an option with discussion with your Dungeon Master. Not only that, it is not absolutely necessary to have a 16 in your highest ability score. Okay, it would be preferred and it would be nice, but it's not absolutely necessary because eventually, as you play, you're going to get the ability score that you need to be the strongest up to 20, and that's the capping point. So after that, you don't need to worry about it. It's just a matter of timing. And also, make sure you select adventuring gear. It's easy for you to do. Anybody can do it. Any player can do this. Any player character can do this. You're not restricted by class. So make use of the fact that you can take what gold you have to help you out by buying equipment that would be useful. You would be surprised how useful adventuring gear can be. In fact, I've done a whole series of videos that talk about mundane equipment and how to use it in your game to your benefit. That covers pretty much everything I wanted to say with regard to character building. But we need to talk about the basics of the Sorcerer, because that's why you're probably here today. And I'm going to take a drink of water and then I will continue. Now, as I said before, my intention is not to give you very heavy direction with regard to building your Sorcerer or tell you what is the best thing to do. It is just to make sure that when you build your Sorcerer, it's not fighting the class. There are a few things that you need to do to be effective with your class. And as long as you follow those directions and instructions, usually most of that is in the player's handbook, but not all of it. So I'm going to give you some additional advice around this. And the rest of the choices are up to you. It really doesn't matter after that. Okay, so let's start off with Charisma should be your highest ability score. Why? Because it directly is connected to how well you can use your sorcery magic. That's the whole point of playing a sorcerer, is to be able to cast magic. So you need that to be quite high. It's actually wise to increase your charisma score to 20 reasonably quickly. So when you get the option to get it higher and pump it up to 20, do that. Next, Constitution and Dexterity are your second most important ability scores, much like a wizard or any spellcaster, frankly, because it relates to how long your sorcerer will survive in battle. Constitution determines how many hit points you have, and then Dexterity is about really how hard are you to hit. and we need those to be pretty good. Pick proficiency with any of the following. You don't need to worry about feeling like this is a hard and fast rule, but generally these skills, proficiency in these skills is going to be the ones that you want. Something like persuasion, deception, intimidation, and the arcana skill. Any of those are pretty good for a sorcerer. And the reason I've given you 4 different ones to pick from is because a sorcerer is more flexible than a wizard in terms of its concept, and generally you're not sort of tied in that hard and fast into what you're trying to do here. I would advise you that probably persuasion, deception, and arcana are more useful. But if you are the right type of sorcerer, then intimidation might also work. So any of those 4 are probably a good choice. You will find that any of the skills that are related to your charisma ability score, so the charisma skills such as persuasion, deception, and intimidation, they will tend to be your strongest because you will have a high modifier in that charisma score, right? So that's actually going to make a big difference. So the charisma-based skills tend to be the strongest for a sorcerer. That doesn't mean you need to take those only. Select at least one damage-dealing cantrip that's got a good range. So don't try to pick a damage-dealing cantrip that's got a very short range, because you want to be as far away from the trouble as you possibly can. The rest of your cantrips are better to be utility cantrips that give you a better balance of play and more flexible options. You want to be able to do things outside of just blow stuff up. So things like Mage Hand you'll find very useful. Minor Illusion, provided you have a Dungeon Master who doesn't adjudicate in a way that will hamper your ability to use Minor Illusion. Prestidigitation is the Swiss Army knife of Dungeons and Dragons. It pretty much does a whole lot of little things. That's really good. Message is also an extremely good cantrip. Mending it's very situational, but there's very few spells that actually do something like this, so you can find that quite useful at times. And Light. I would suggest to you that you will find primarily mending and light may be things you want to take a little bit later on, and your 3 go-tos are going to be either Mage Hand, Minor Illusion, or Prestidigitation. One of those was probably a smart idea. In terms of what damage dealing cantrip to take, I'm not going to tell you. As I said, just pick one that's got a reasonable range, because all of them are pretty good. You only get 2 first level spells at character level 1, so you need to ensure that you have some pretty good spells on you, okay? I would suggest to you that you want to probably take Mage Armor or Shield, one or the other. Personally, for me, I would go with Mage Armor because it's consistent, lasts for 8 hours, rather than whereas Shield only lasts for a single round. You do get a much higher bonus, but you only get it for a single round, whereas Mage Armor is probably going to last longer. But either one of those, Mage Armor or Shield, and then take Magic Missile. So why have I just told you at level 1 as a character, it said you're only going to get 2 level 1 first level spells? Why have I told you take either Mage Armor or Shield and Magic Missile? That's all your selections. That's all the spells that you would know at that level. I've locked you in. Why have I done that? It's because there just isn't any other more sensible thing to be doing, frankly, at low level, is to take those ones. You may even be able to swap out something like Magic Missile with Sleep, because Sleep does not require you to roll anything to attack. It just works, okay? Much like Magic Missile. That's probably maybe that's an amendment I need to make in the future, is to say either Magic Missile or Sleep. Now, the better first level spells when you get more spells are obviously Mage Armor, Magic Missile, Shield, Detect Magic, you'll use that a lot, just as you will use Mage Armor a lot, and Shield. Charm Person is a very good spell at first level. Thunder Wave, a very good damage dealing spell, okay, at first level. And of course Sleep, an extremely good spell at low level and not so great at higher levels. But you'll always find a use for Magic Missile, even at higher levels, because there are situations where it actually becomes really useful to be able to do something that doesn't require you to make an attack roll. Okay, selecting the best meta magic options at level 3. Like at level 3 you get meta magic, so what other things do you want to kind of try and pick up? I'm going to only suggest a couple. I find these to be probably the better of the meta magic options. That is the quicken spell, that is the twin spell, and that is the subtle spell. And I'm not going to explain in a lot of detail as to why, but you will just find that they come up and are more useful to you overall over the spread of your campaign. The others require a lot more skill and mastery to understand when and where to use them. Okay, the best feats for a sorcerer will generally be these. Warcaster after level 4. You probably don't want Warcaster straight away. Okay, but Lucky, always good for any class. Alert, always good for any class. Inspiring Leader, surprisingly, because you are a charisma-based class, you'll find that the Inspiring Leader not just benefits you, but your entire party. And so therefore you will generally be able to impart that particular feat's ability, temporary hit points, to everybody in your party more often than not. Another feat that often is sort of overlooked by people who are playing a sorcerer is the ritual caster feat, because now you can select a spell once you have this feat that is a ritual. It has a ritual tag, and it does not require you to use a spell slot to cast that spell. As long as you have 10 minutes plus, you can cast that spell an indefinite or infinite number of times, and that's really useful. So this is your opportunity to pick up something like, in conjunction with ritual casting and detect magic, which is a ritual, you can cast that over and over and over again, okay, and get the benefit of that. And then lastly, tough, because it gives you more hit points, and like all casters need to have more hit points just to stay in the fight, particularly if they wind up with being snuck up from behind or find themselves in the front line when they shouldn't be in the front line. And that pretty much covers all the different things that I can think of with regard to the sorcerer that are absolutely vital to your success. Now, I'm hoping that this was useful to you in some way. Please let me know in the comments how you're doing with your character creation for the sorcerer or any other character class, because there will be more of these in the future covering different classes. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. Okay, I'm coming back. We'll do some Q&A and then we'll go straight into building a sorcerer on D&D Beyond for today. I'm not actually going to use D&D Beyond to build beginner characters forever, by the way, for those of you who are wondering. Once I've gone through all the classes, I'm probably going to switch to a different format just to sort of vary things up. Okay, let's have a look at what we have in terms of chat and what's going on here. I'm going to have a look at the poll very quickly, and then I'm going to say hi to everybody. Is this your first time building a sorcerer for Dungeons and Dragons 5e? 25% out of 16 said yes. Okay, so these are the people that we need to focus in and give them the most help with. Okay, please let me know in the chat if you are struggling or you have some questions, and I will answer those questions as best I can. Okay, I'm turning on my phone now so that I can keep a track of chat while I'm doing this. Right, and then no, 44%. I know there's a few people here who are patrons or follow the channel. Just watching, 31%. I kind of figured that might. Partly finished, 6%. I just saw the numbers just change now. Good to know. Okay, so whoever's partly finished, let's see if we can get your character finished today. Eh? Big Kid, hello. How's it going, Notorious? If you choose Wild Magic, does the spell that triggers the surge roll still go off? So you cast Witch Bolt and you have them roll for a surge, and the surge goes off. Does Witch Bolt go off first? I would look. Just have the spell go first. Have the spell effect do its thing, okay, and then deal with wild magic surges after that. That would be my advice to you, okay. Otherwise, you're going to really complicate things. What could potentially happen if you do it the other way around is you could wind up with your character turning into a sheep or a pot plant, and you don't actually have your spell go off because the Dungeon Master might say, well, no, you can't actually cast a spell because sheep and pot plants don't cast spells. So just have the spell go off, okay? That's the first thing, and then the Wild Magic Surge can come into play after. Quantum Phase Dragon. Hello, Quantum Phase. How are you doing? Hello. Thanks for helping me become a DM. You're welcome. I'm glad that I have been a great mentor for you. Good. As I said, this is not just necessarily for players. This is for Dungeon Masters who need their players to get a bit of advice. And you've seen what I said about the Sorcerer, so you'll know whether you agree with me or not with regard to the basics. Byron Lee. How's it going, Byron? Having a bunch of reliable cantrips can be useful for a sorcerer. Yes. Yes, that's right, because there's no limit to the number of times you can use the cantrip. Okay, so picking the right cantrip can really make a big difference. Spirit Wolf, hello, how are you? Joan, good stuff, you like it? Good, how's it going? It's best I can't never play. What's that? Just learning as best I can. Never played 5e. You've never played 5e. Do you want to play 5e? That's my question. Like, do you want to play it? Jeremy, hello, Jeremy. You're coming from 3.5. How different is spellcasting to 5e? I don't have a player's handbook yet. So, Jeremy, you will remember probably the Sorcerer was a spontaneous caster in 3.5. Okay, so if you were playing 3.5, the Sorcerer was probably a better class in 3.5 than 5e. I think the Sorcerer is a bit of a mess in 5e, frankly. There are a lot of restrictions. You have spells that you know, you have spells that you prepare, and then you have spell slots. So there's like 3 different things going on here. Whereas in the past, because you were spontaneous spellcaster in 3.5, if whatever was on your Sorcerer spell list, you could cast anything and everything on that list. You didn't have to learn it. You didn't have to choose or select it. And frankly, you would find generally that a Sorcerer was probably at low levels was better than a Wizard. Yep. But a Wizard could learn more spells because their spell list was longer, but they actually had to learn spells, put them into their book, and then they also had to memorize them. So it was a whole different kettle of fish, as far as I remember. It's been a while since I've played 3.5, or even, I mean, I believe Pathfinder kind of followed the same pattern, or at least the first dead edition of Pathfinder, which I've played as well. So hopefully that answers your question, Jeremy. Okay. Leland. Jeremy Leland. So Jean. Yes, yeah, that's the next game. Cool. Jean. Okay, like jeans as in Jean. Got it. Right. Let's look. You guys have got your questions out there. Let's crack into this and actually get some stuff done, right? Because that's why you're here in the first place. You didn't show up for let's have a little natter for a while. Let's actually build a character. So let me just make sure I've got my phone up and running. I'm going to grab some water while I'm waiting for that to fire up. Now, for those of you who've never been part of these character building processes, I ask for a lot of feedback from my audience. So you will help me build the character. It's not like it really matters what the character winds up turning out like, as far as I'm concerned, right? As long as you guys are interested in taking part and you're learning along the way. And I always find that if people can actually participate in the process, they're more likely to retain that information later on, right? So everything I talked about with regard to the Sorcerer, you need to remember that information because we're going to refer back to that at some point. All right, so my chat is working fine. We will open up D&D Beyond. You need to make sure you have an account. If you don't have an account right now, I'm going to flick you a link to D&D Beyond for those of you who don't know anything about it, so that you can sort that out. You need to make yourself an account if you don't have one. It doesn't take that long. It's basically a Twitch account. In the past it was, but there is the link if you need it. Okay? And you build your character as you listen to what I have to say. And you don't have to build it the way I'm building it. Like you can build a different character completely, eh? Right, so now that I've got that there, let us switch ourselves over to the correct screen and capture. And that should be working. Yep, and we will go back here. This is where I am. This is D&D Beyond. And while I wait for the chat to catch up, we will begin. I'm going to grab the player's handbook and open it up to the section on the Sorcerer. This gives me an idea of what I need to work with. The good news is we get to choose quite a lot of cantrips. At first level, you get to select 4, which is great. Spells 9 at first level is like 2, which is a bit of a sucky, but you know, it'll improve over time. Okay, now that we're here, let us go to collections. I'm going to get rid of this. I don't want that. Collections. And you're under collections, you'll see it says create a character. So we're going to go here. Select that. Waiting, waiting, waiting. Hello, Jeeves. How's it going? Welcome back. Now, if you are a patron and I forget to mention it, you let me know, because sometimes I get too busy in these things, as you know. Right, so we got the randomize. We don't want to do that. It's a quick build. No, we're going to use the standard system because we're going to show you the whole process. This is ideal for beginners. So we pick this one. Creating a character. So it talks a little bit about the character creation process. We don't need to worry too much about that. We'll just continue on. There's little arrows. This one here goes back. This one goes forward. We are now in where we want to be in terms of what are we going to select as our bits and pieces. So we can select a name. We can do this randomly. So I'll just randomize a name. No, I can't pronounce that very well. No, too hard. Tornor. Now there's also underneath, you'll see it says fantasy name generator. You can go to this website and you can actually pick names from there. If you're having trouble coming up with a name, it has not just fantasy names, but it has names from all around the world if you're struggling to find a name that you like. Renate. Okay, so I'm going to change this Renata. I met a lady called Renata from India one time. So I'm going to call this character Renata. It kind of suggests that we're making a female character today, doesn't it? You can also select an image. And I'm going to go in here right now. No, we won't, because we haven't decided what the race is. So we'll leave that alone for now. So obviously I've made it a female. The sources that we're going to allow or restrict it to. So I'm going to turn off all of this stuff because I am assuming that you haven't paid for any of this content. So we're not going to use it so you don't get confused. I don't want you trying to build something and finding that you have to buy stuff. Dice rolling, we can enable dice rolling. That seems fine. Optional features, you can turn on some of the class features and the customizing your origin, unless people, if there's somebody who particularly wants me to do that, I'll do that. By the way, the best way to support me doing these classes continually each week, which is the intention, is through Patreon. I know as a player you may not get quite as much as you get as a Dungeon Master on Patreon, but you do get some stuff that you'll find useful. Otherwise, super chats and super stickers. So now that I've said that, so these options, I'm going to leave them off because I'm going to assume that you don't have the book details for that and you haven't paid for that stuff. And I don't know if that's necessarily paid. Advancement, are you using milestones or XP or experience points? Just check with your Dungeon Master. I'll just say XP for now. Hit point type, we can go manual or we can fix it. Now, because we're only building to level 1, I'm not going to try and put it in manually because that would mean we would have to roll dice. And I only have one camera upright today. Are we using feats or multi-classing? Well, I'll just leave multi-classing off because we won't need it because we're only doing 1 level. I'll leave feats in dependent on what you guys decide to pick. Okay. Show level scaled spells. We can leave that on. It doesn't matter. Are we going to use encumbrance? No encumbrance, variant encumbrance, or use encumbrance. I'll just leave encumbrance on. It depends on what your Dungeon Master prefers. Do we ignore the coin weight? Well, we can turn that on or off. I'm going to ignore it for now. I want to make the modifier rather than the score. The modifier on your ability scores is the small number, and the big number is the ability score. So I want you to have the big number be the modifier because you're going to use that more often than the score itself. So make that the big number. That's on top. And then I'll make this public because it doesn't matter if you guys can see this or not. And then we'll go next. We can come back and do the picture later on, by the way. Race. So basically, it has a breakdown of how races work. Because we're using the older version of races, you'll have your ability scores dictated in many respects, all of them, by your race. Okay, age, alignment, not so much of an important factor. Size, speed, languages, and sub-races if there is one, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go forward, and you are going to pick a race that we can select from here. So out of all of these, I want you to pick a race. So I'll go hashtag pick a race. Hashtag pick. First one in is the one I pick. Pick a race. You do not need to pick a race that is got a high, has a bonus to charisma. I know that's the tendency for people to do, is I will only pick something that has a benefit to charisma and nothing else. But you don't have to do that, okay? You don't need to go Dragonborn. You don't have to go Tiefling. How's it going, JP? Race equals half elf with +1 charisma. Okay, all right, so race half elf. We can do that. Now, can I just say that I think the half elf is actually one of the best ways of dealing with it. What it does is it ties you partly into an ability score improvement, but it gives you options as well. And it's like the best of both worlds. And it's part of the basic rule, so we can actually use this thing, okay? So we will select that since JP has mentioned that first. That gives us a lot of the benefits of being human. It also gives us a lot of benefits of being an elf. Okay. All right. Spirit Wolf and Jeremy, unfortunately, weren't fast enough. It looks like I don't know how JP got the half elf in there so quickly. All right. So now that we've got that, we get ability score increases. Right. So we can actually pick what we get, which is kind of nice, yeah? So your charisma score increases by 2. And 2 other ability scores of your choice increase by 1. So that means we get to decide what we increase right now. Now, do you remember what I said about a sorcerer? That something like charisma, constitution, and dexterity are very good. So we don't have to worry about charisma because we can't do another boost to charisma. That's not going to work. It's not going to let us do that. But we have 2 scores that we want to increase. And frankly, I'm not that concerned about what you decide to pick because we can adjust things. So we'll go hashtag pick 2 abilities to increase. Con and Dex. Jeremy, you're quick. All right, so that's what we'll do. Con and Dex. Okay. Now we will scroll down. We get dark vision, which is very handy. A lot of races have it, but humans don't. So being half alphas can be kind of handy. You've also got Fey Ancestry, which means you have advantage on saving throws against being charmed and magically being put to sleep, which is kind of cool as well. And then we have skilled versatility. So we've got a choice to make. Like there's some skills we need to pick here. Now you remember those skills that I suggested before. They are tied for a sorcerer. They're tied to your class. But at this point, when we make these choices as part of your race, you can do anything you want. Okay? So I want you to pick 2 skills. They don't have to be related to the class because we'll come to that later, right? This is related to our race. So you can pick any 2 skills you like. Pick 2 skills. I think that's got it. By the time I pump this in, somebody has already probably picked something. Okay. Now, how are we doing? Good stream, having fun. Good. I want you to have fun. So look, if you don't know what your choices are, you can pick out of these 2 that we can put into this particular race, the half elf. Arcana and Stealth. Spirit Wolf, well done. Cool, let's do that. We'll go Arcana. And we'll go Stealth. There we go. And do you know, we will also get some skills from our background when we select our background. If you ever find that you duplicate your skills from your background that you have with your race or with your class, you can change those skills. It may be a bit more difficult to do it on D&D Beyond, but if you have done it here, like essentially we can change those things can be adjusted. You just tell your Dungeon Master and switch them out with something else. Okay? Yeah, but remember, we're going to get quite a few more skills. Now, we need to select a language. Okay, so right now you can speak, read, and write Common, Elvish, and you get one extra language, and you get to pick pretty much anything you like. So pick a language. Hashtag pick a language. Language. Okay. Agile Monk has sent me an email just now, and I can't read it because I'm in the middle of doing this. But if you are watching Agile Monk and you can't say anything, I get it. You do whatever you need to do. I'll check that message later. Okay. Agile Monk is a patron, by the way. Okay, so let's have a look. Draconic. Why not? Absolutely. Let's go with Draconic. Cool. Okay, so we had a lot of choices we had to make with this particular race, didn't we? So let's move on. Actually, what else did we have here? I needed to mention. Fancy Street. No, we got it. Best of both worlds. So now we're going into a class. Well, we know what class we're going to select. Okay, that's pretty obvious what class we're going to pick. Okay, we're going to just pick the Sorcerer because that's what we're building today. Okay, we've got Sorcerer. We're going to be at level 1, so we don't need to change that. We don't need to manage our hit points because right now it's calculated our maximum hit points if we rolled a 6-sided dice would be 6. And when we have a Constitution modifier, which we don't have just yet, it will add our Constitution modifier to that 6 and our hit points will go up. You can see how few hit points you get as a Sorcerer. It's like being a wizard. It's not a lot. Hello, Overboard Miniatures Gaming. Overboard is actually got a YouTube channel, does miniatures and terrain, and he's also a patron and supports me doing these classes and this program that I've been running on YouTube. Yep, it's right. You keep doing your thing, Joe. It's not a problem. I will keep going. Right, so let's work on our hit points. Are done. Okay, we get max at first level, and then we will we'll have a system that goes into play after that. And now, if you're wondering about what happens after level 1, basically you will either roll a 6-sided dice if you're supposed to be rolling dice in the game for this. It depends on what your Dungeon Master wants to do, and you add your Constitution modifier after level 1. Okay, for level 2, level 3, that's what you do. Or if you're using the average, you'd take 4 plus your Constitution modifier after level 1. And that's what would be your new hit points each time you level up. All right? Okay. So we've got that covered. Next, proficiencies. So we get a whole bunch of different proficiencies we get to select. Now, if you remember, we took Arcana and we took Stealth as part of our race. So we don't need to pick them up as sorcerer skills. We get 2 sorcerer skills to pick. So we're going to go with another selection. Here we go. Hashtag pick 2 skills. They have to be the ones that are part of the class. Okay, you can't pick something else, people. So the skills that you have to choose from are, remember, we've already got Arcana, so either Deception, Insight, Intimidation, Persuasion, Religion. I would recommend you're probably better to go with either Deception, Persuasion, or Intimidation, but it's up to you. So pick 2 skills. I will drop a lozenge in my mouth before I lose my voice while you guys decide what you would like me to add to this thing. Deception and Insight. Okay, Spirit Wolf, you are the fastest gun around. Deception, Insight. Now, Spirit Wolf was probably picked Deception and Insight to work in conjunction with each other. Remember, we're not locked down to our skills. We've now got 4 skills. 4 skills. That's quite a few, and we're still going to get some more when we get our background. Okay? All right, see, let's keep going. Also, we are also proficient with Constitution and Charisma, if you weren't aware. We do not get armor, and we don't have any tools, but we do have a couple of weapons. But we're never going to use them, probably, because we're going to try to stick to using our cantrip. Okay, spellcasting. Font of Magic. There's basically Font of Magic is not something we're going to have to make a lot of choices about. Okay, it certainly comes into play. This is the complicated maths behind how your spellcasting works. So don't get too caught up in that. We do have to make a choice though, and that is our Sorcerer origin at first level. It actually occurs right smack off the bat. We actually need to pick a Sorcerer origin. Okay, so our choices here, whoops, all for today, let's go up a bit. They've given us the choice of the Draconic Bloodline, which is in the player's handbook, the Clockwork Soul, and the Aberrant Mind. They haven't given us the the Wild Magic option, because I have to pay for that. It's part of the player's handbook option. And since I know that you probably might not have this if you're starting out, these are the free options. So you're going to pick a Sorcerer origin. Pick a Sorcerer. Origin. Right. So while I'm waiting for you to pick a Sorcerer origin, Aberrant Mind, Clockwork Soul, or Draconic Bloodline, one of the things you can always do if you make a mistake, particularly if you're working on D&D Beyond and building your character, if you feel like you've made a mistake or you want to change things, you can actually go back. You can go back. You can go use the previous page and make adjustments along the way. And any time that you sort of are like, I don't think that was the right decision. Do I have to start all over again? No, you don't have to start all over again when you're building your character. I know some character builders will be sort of lock you in and you kind of got to start all over again. I use on my phone, while I'm waiting for you guys to decide on your Sorcerer origin, on my phone I use the 5th ed edition character sheet. It's free for like first level stuff. It doesn't have a licensing thing. There is a paid version. It isn't as robust as some of the other options out there, but I've always used it because it let me do most things. There are some things it can't do, but that's okay. Draconic Bloodlines. Thank you, Spirit Wolf. We've got it. We've selected it. Okay. That gives us a few different things. Now that we've selected that, at first level, you choose one type of dragon as your ancestor. The damage type associated with each dragon is used by features you gain later. So in other words, we actually have to make another choice. Now that we've picked that, we actually have to make another choice. How many choices are there? Pick a dragon ancestor. Hashtag. Where are we? Hash. Pick a dragon ancestor, draconic. Ancestry. There we go. That's what I wanted. That was easy. So what are our choices? We've got quite a few. We can be black, blue, brass, bronze, copper, gold, green, red, silver, white. Okay. Each one has a different effect. I'm not going to necessarily go over every single one with you, like, what does this do or that do? But all you need to know is that about half these dragons are considered evil in nature in terms of alignment. That doesn't mean it's a reflection on how your character has to be played. Just because your ancestor was a black dragon doesn't mean that your character's evil. okay? Just because generally, black dragons are evil, okay? And that doesn't mean that if you're playing a gold dragon is silver. Thank you, Spirit Wolf. You're right on the money. You're fast. At least I've got somebody helping me along this. I'll be stuck here forever otherwise. So we've got that. So now that we've picked that, that gives us some certain benefits, okay? Our Draconic Resilience is based off that. And at first level, we get a maximum increase of 1 to our hit points. And we add another 1 to our hit points when we gain a new level. So we get more hit points because we've picked silver, okay? And additionally to this, we wind up with sort of dragon-like scales on us. When you aren't wearing armor, there's a different armor class calculation that you'll use. And that's quite useful for a sorcerer in this case. So your armor class is now calculated, instead of being 10 plus your dexterity modifier, it's now 13 plus your dexterity modifier. Do you know what this means? By collecting silver, we don't need to worry about mage armor. We don't need to select mage armor with this particular character because mage armor, the calculation for that is a 13 plus your dexterity modifier. And you can't stack that calculation on top of the mage armor calculation. So that changes our decisions with regard to that. That's not always going to happen. It depends on the dragon that you pick up, basically. If I remember right, I'm pretty sure it does. Does it work that way? No, it's for all of them. It's just, yeah, so the silver just affects the damage type that it does. Okay, right. Don't need to worry about high level. Let's move on. We have done our sorcerer stuff, made our choices. This is the ability scores I was talking about. This is where we need to actually do some stuff. So either we use standard array, point buy, or manually roll dice. So let's make a choice, people. Pick a generation ability. Generation. Method. I'm happy to do any one of these. We have already done manually rolling dice. We've done point buy. I haven't shown you how to use standard array, so that might be useful, but I will pick whatever you like. It's not like it's going to be a big deal. We will come back round and deal with standard array another day anyway. Since it's a weekly program, it doesn't matter, does it? So, but you guys, let me know. Guys and gals, let me know what you would like. Do you want standard array, and we'll work with that? Or do you want point buy? Or do you want manually, and we'll roll some dice? Because there's a dice builder built into D&D Beyond. Okay, now I'm just making sure that I've got, yep, I'm pretty happy with that. Standard array, good choice, Spirit Wolf. This means those of you who are trying to explain to players how standard array works, it's pretty simple. We've got a 15, a 14, a 13, a 12, a 10, and an 8. Okay, and we'll use that. And we can place them where we want them to go. We are selecting our generation method, which is going to be standard array. And so you'll see strength, dexterity, constitution. Oh, hopefully you can see it. Strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. And there's a little arrow. This is a drop-down menu, and it lets us pick what we want to go where. Okay? So where does our 15 need to go? Our 15, I'm not going to give you a choice around this. You're playing a sorcerer. That's going to be 15. Okay? Goes into charisma. You remember how we talked about constitution and dexterity probably needing to be your second highest scores? Well, let's have a look. Dexterity and constitution. Well, our choices are a 14 and a 13. Correct? And we put a +1 into dexterity and constitution. So it's now about, do we feel like is it better to have a higher dexterity or a higher constitution? Because either one could be fine. So which do you value more? Yeah, the constitution or the dexterity, because we can't put the same number in both. One of them is going to wind up being slightly higher than the other. mathematically it's actually not going to mean very much, because the difference between a 14 and a 15, when it's adjusted, is exactly the same. So it's actually just a personal choice. Mathematically, it's actually not going to affect very much at all. Pick constitution or dexterity as our next one. Dexterity. Okay, highest one is dexterity. Do that one. Next one, constitution. We're going to have to dump something somewhere. Something is going to have to get the short end of the stick. So where is the dump going to be? So where I'm going to put the 8. Where to put 8? Okay. That's weird. Did you pick con? Did I pick 63? Oh, back the other way around. Something went weird with my my chat here. So we'll switch them around. Back there. That's supposed to, so you want the highest one, constitution. Dexterity is the next one. Okay, that's fine. Got it. Strength 8. Okay. We're not wearing armor, so we should be all right. And the other two, there will be a difference between having intelligence and wisdom. I think what we'll do is, because wisdom is probably going to wind up coming into play a lot, but also we've got arcana, so let's go with taking 12 into our intelligence so we can actually make intelligence checks and have a slight benefit to that. Yeah. Frankly, I don't think it matters that much. Yep, let's just do that. We've got our increases stipulated here, so we know it's going to go there. It's going to get adjusted, so our new adjustments for each one. Our charisma is now a 17, not a 15, because of our race. And because of our race, instead of a constitution of 14, we get a 15, and our dexterity is a 14 rather than 13. Those adjusted for the race. Scrolling down, gives us all the maths, shows us how it all works, where the base scores are, what the modifiers are going to be. So if we have to do anything that's strength-based, it's not going to be something we're very good at, because we've got a minus in that. Right? Okay, so now that that's done, we can move on. This is the fun bit. This is backgrounds. This is where we get to pick a background and play around a little bit. Background. Our choices are Acolyte, Criminal, Spy, Folk Hero, Haunted One, Noble, Sage, Soldier. I know it's tempting to make all spellcasters a Sage, but you don't need to do that. So let's pick a background. Yes, there's also an option to do a custom background right here, for those of you who are wondering. I won't do that today, though. Okay, pick a background. Here we go. Hit the button. Fred, go take a break. It's 1 hour past. That's handy to know. So, pick a background. Thank you, Dinomancer. Dinomancer is a patron. Soldier. All right, I'll put soldier in. We have some choices to make, but I am going, as I've been instructed, I need to make sure I look after myself, so I will take a break. So we are going to go over and let Arnold Schwarzenegger look after you for a little while. 5 minutes, and then I'll be back, okay? And then we'll go from there. Okay, right, we should be back here. We have some choices to make. Now, there's something I need to check. Dynamancer, who's a patron, hey, thank you for reminding me, buddy, because I would have kept going otherwise. Okay, so now you had put in hermit. Right. Yeah. Well, I have to be reminded to go to the loo in these things. You know what it's like for me. You're probably at work, mate. I bet you're at work. Anyway, would have a deck of playing cards. Yes, a dice or a deck. Sounds like, oh, we'll put it a deck of playing cards. Yep, game cards. Now, before I select it, we may have duplicated some of our skills. So I'm going to check to make sure. This is something I want you to do if you're building your character. When you get to the background, sometimes when you select skills for a race or a class, you might duplicate them a little bit. And so I want you to go back into the background section. Where is it? Under soldier. And check to see what skills you get to make sure you didn't select those already. A soldier gets athletics, so we didn't pick athletics as for our race or for our class, so that's all right. Intimidation, no, we picked deception and insight, and we also picked arcana and stealth, so we're actually good. Okay, so we don't need to worry about going back and changing it to a custom and then using the soldier as our basis, so we should be fine. All right, let's go with some cards. Playing cards, there we go. Playing cards have been selected. We get a military rank. I know a lot of people think that backgrounds are like garbage and like useless and are not worthy of anything. It's usually, I feel like they often say this because they're not combat focused. And backgrounds, I feel, shouldn't be combat focused. Even though this is a very military combat background, that doesn't mean we need to have combat fighting stuff tied to it. What we want is all the other stuff that's connected to that. Do you know what I mean? Right, you've got a few suggestions. So we're going to build some personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws. And I'm going to get you to roll some dice. So we need two personality traits. So roll some dice. You need a D8, so an 8-sided dice. Hashtag roll D8 twice for personality. Personality. Personality traits. I think I got it. A warrant officer. Nice. You could be a warrant officer, yes. So yes, get out those 20. There's 8-sided dice, 8 and a 4. Thank you, Spirit Wolf. For those of you who haven't figured it out, it's always a good idea to have dice on you when you're in these live streams with me. Overboard, you're too slow, but it's all right. We're going to be rolling D6s next, so start rolling some 6-sided dice. So 8. 8 is I face problems head on. A simple, direct solution is the best path to success. Now, you don't need to pick these from the book on this chart. You can actually make your own personality traits up. If you prefer to do that, you can. So feel free. And you can go back into these and you can adjust them. There is an option to edit. Okay. Number 4 is I'm full of inspiring and cautionary tales from my military experience, relevant to almost every combat situation. Okay. Right, so we've got a 3 and a 5. So Dynamancer's getting those 6-sided dice rolling. I'm going to need you to roll it. I need, how many rolls? I need 3 6-sided dice rolls. So the first number, this is going to be for ideals. Dynamancer, you've got a 3. So what is 3 on ideals? 3 is independence. When people follow orders blindly, they embrace a kind of tyranny. This is chaotic, apparently. So, I'm all about resisting tyranny, though. So, bonds. You rolled a 5. So, 5 is going to be those who fight beside me are those worthy dying for. So, in other words, there's a lot of loyalty going on here. So this is a good one to have as a bond. In terms of trying to tie your character to a party, works pretty well. And the last one, Spirit Wolf, got a 4. That's going to be our flaw. So we're going to pick our flaw as number 4. 4 is our flaw. My hatred of enemies is blind and unreasoning. Okay, sounds like a fun one. And Dynamance has just rolled 2 6s. Well done. 3 6s, and we would have had some problems. Thank God God we didn't have 3 6s, eh? 666. Okay, so we can go back down here, and you'll see character details. So this is where we can choose our alignment. I'm just gonna pick neutral, basically because I'm not too worried about that sort of thing. We can pick a lifestyle. We can type in our faith. If we know what our faith is for our character, we can type that in. If you pick a deity or you've created something and your dungeon master's all right with it, then stick that in. So pick a lifestyle, people. Pick a lifestyle. Hashtag pick a lifestyle. Here we go. Demons, my lord. Demons. All right, so fine. Faith, demons. You want me to put demons? Demon lord. Don't know which demon lord it is. Didn't ask. Modest. Okay, modest, Spirit Wolf. I've got it. We'll put in modest. Okay, we got that. So, physical characteristics. We've done all the other stuff. Now, this is where you can add in what hair color, skin, eyes, height, weight, how old you are, what gender you are. Well, we know we're female. Pretty sure we made sure it was a female. The rest of it, I'm not going to worry too much about. He's a filth. Okay. I wonder why it made that helpful review. Dynamat's put down squalid. Okay. Nice. Demon Lord Orcus. All right. I'll go back and I'll add it in. Yeah, troublemaker, you. Dear. You just want to make an evil character. I know you do. Okay. So now that we've got that information in here, I'm not going to do this stuff. You guys can just make that stuff up yourself. Now, this lists all of our personality traits, our ideals, bonds, and flaws that we selected. And you'll see here that there is a little green button. That green button allows us to click it and we can edit the actual entry. We don't have to have it worded that way, so we can change it. Yeah, death. That's the teenager. So you can go in here, you can click that, and then you can go and you can edit that section if you decide you want to. Ideals. There it is, up the top. This is where you can edit it. So I can highlight and I can delete if I want to. So I'll just do it like that. And then I'm finished. I close back out and it adjusted it. If I decide I don't want that bit there. So you can make adjustments. Teenager, 19 years old. All right, you want me to put an age in? Fine. That's fine. I wasn't going to prompt, but I'll put the age in if you want. Weight, height, eyes. Yeah, let's just move on. Let's keep it going. I want to do equipment. This guy's giving me a goth vibe. You want a goth vibe, really? Renata is the name, the Renata. So I don't know about that. So you can add in, if you have an organization that you're affiliated with, you can add notes for that. If you have allies that you can add them in, and you can do this at a later date. You don't have to do it right away when you start building the character. You can add in any enemies if you have any. Your backstory can go in here, so you can actually drop it in here, and other notes. Okay, other. So that's got all of the stuff we need to do around that aspect. We can actually now pick Renata's face. So a half-elf portrait. I'll just do this one. We needed a female. There's Renata. Done. Now, equipment. You might have remembered I said you can select your equipment, your starting equipment, or you can buy it using gold. And I've always said that selecting is probably the best way to go, and then spend whatever gold you have left to buy additional stuff. You've got me lost. You've got great sword breastplate. How the heck, Dinomancer, are you thinking we're going to be giving a sorcerer a great sword? Breastplate, different, but not necessary really, considering we've got our draconic bloodline. Like, the draconic bloodline's doing a pretty good job of all of that. Anyway, let's get some equipment sorted out. Now, it's got here, starting equipment. Yep, we can go equipment or we can go gold. I'm going to, as I said, I suggest you go equipment and then just make the selections. So, are we going to pick a simple weapon or a light crossbow with 20 bolts? Are we going to have an arcane focus or a spell component pouch? Do we take the explorer's pack or the the dungeoneer's pack? Like, which one? We're definitely getting 2 daggers, so we don't have to worry about daggers. Okay. We do have some starting equipment that we can grab as a soldier as well, but let's deal with first our sorcerer starting equipment. You want a whip? How did a whip come to God. A whip and a hand crossbow. Well, light hand crossbow, got that one. I don't know how it is that you've come up with the idea of grabbing a whip. We'd have to buy that whip, you realise. We can do that. You joined late. Yeah, I'm sure you did. Okay, so is it going to be the arcane focus or the component pouch? That's what we need to decide. A boomerang and hide armor. We don't get armor. We're a sorcerer. We don't get armor. You want a sickle. How did a sickle come into this? On the screen, is it not obvious that there are things that you can select? Have I not made this screen big enough so you can see it? Okay, so I'm gonna have to do the hashtag thing, and I'll do a bit more directive here. Otherwise, we're not going to get it done. Pick a component pouch, God. Pouch, or arcane focus. There we go. First choice. Give it to me, people. Give it to me. We can come back to sickles and ropes later. Let's do all the stuff we've got here. Something curved, please. Core blimey. Core blimey. And I just tired of daggers. That's all right. I understand, but as part of starting sorcerer equipment, we get 2 daggers. Okay, or we can get something else. It's all right. You can have other stuff. Arcane focus in the shape of a crystal dagger. Oh my God. Yeah, right. Okay, stirrer. But it's a crystal. At least you said crystal, so I'm ticking crystal. Right. Okay, so that's one choice. We need to pick our pack. What pack are we picking? Pick a pack of pickled peppers. Pick a pack. And what are we going to go with? It's going to be Dungeoneers. Dungeoneers. Or Explorers. It would be sensible when you're doing this yourself to make sure you look to see what's in the Dungeoneers pack and what is in the Explorers pack. Okay, cool. We have an Explorers pack. We've got that choice made, and it shows you and tells you what's there in that pack. Okay. Next, soldier starting equipment. Well, we apparently are proficient with decks of cards, so we're taking the deck of cards. And starting equipment can be a dagger, a broken blade, or a piece of a banner. So, yep, we got the focus. Don't worry, got the focus. All right, so let's go with hashtag it and soldier. We've got 3 choices: dagger, a broken blade, or a piece of a banner. Okay, I'll move that other way so you can see it properly. It's right smack in the center there. You should be able to see it. Okay, soldier. Oh, come on. Pick a pick of pickled something. Pick a soldier starting equipment. It doesn't have to have a truly useful use. It could just be a novelty. The banner. Okay, Spirit Wolf said banner. Dinomancer said broken banner. I think it is the banner. That's a definitive. This is one of the things that I often forget to do when I'm building the character on D&D Beyond, is I forget to add the starting equipment that I just selected to the sodding thing, and then I've got to do it all over again. And we don't want to do that, so press this button so it actually goes in. Okay. All right. Equipment chosen. Cool. So that was a lot easier. And it now gives us a breakdown. This is all the stuff we have. We need to go through here and make sure that we actually turn some stuff on so that you actually get the maths for it. Otherwise, D&D Beyond will do a lot of the mathematics for you, so you don't have to worry about doing the maths. But if we don't turn it on, it won't work. So first, we're going to use the pack. It was used. Now it's in use. We got a crossbow bolts. That's the ammunition. I'm not worried about that. I want to turn on the light crossbow, so we get the calculation for that. So we'll turn that on. And we want to know what the dagger is going to do, so we're going to turn that on, even though it's not necessarily being held by our character. It's just to give us the maths so we don't have to worry about it later on. Turn on one of the daggers. So we've got that. Okay. That doesn't mean your character is necessarily holding the dagger and the light crossbow all the time. It's just so you get the maths for it. Okay, and then it gives us all the other stuff that we have. We have money to spend. We have 10 gold pieces. This is my favorite bit out of the whole process, is going and spending stuff. And I have to admit that spending pretend money is not as much fun as spending somebody else's real money. Much more fun to spend somebody else's money than my own, for sure. Okay, view the character sheet. This should give us a breakdown. It's not going to look a lot like the usual paper character sheets that you've seen, so be warned. You can export them, so don't worry if you're feeling you can't export it, you can. First thing is we'll sell our gear and buy a boomerang. How about we just buy a boomerang? I'll tell you what, Dinomancer, we will just get a stick. No, I don't think we're going to have enough for a dog. Last week I was struggling to find out where the sodding dog was. Like, you know, I know you can get a dog, but just to use as a sort of like a hunting dog, or to keep watch when you're taking a rest, but I couldn't find it. For the love of me, I just like, where is it? Now, we haven't actually selected our spells too, by the way, so we probably need to select some spells. Let's go to spells before I start getting sidetracked, because I will be. Everybody wants the dog right now. Let's deal with the spells, okay? Right. So, manage spells. We need to add some spells. So it says here we get 4 cantrips. So we're going to restrict our list to cantrips. And right now, as I select this, I've just realized I did this last time. You couldn't see a sodding thing that I was doing. So just give me a second while I shift my camera to the other side, while we actually pick these things out, because otherwise you won't be able to see what I'm doing. Okay, and back we go. There we go. You should be able to actually see the section that says Sorcerer, add spells. It says we have 4 cantrips. Right now we have none. We haven't selected any. We're supposed to know 2 first level spells. We don't know any yet because we haven't learned anything. So this is where we're going to do this. So people have already started throwing in things we want to grab. You got Mage, Armor, Magic Missile, Shield, Find Familiar. So we only get 2. So first level spells, you need to select 2. So which out of those 4 that you named are we going to get? Because we only get 2, remember? Firebolt, Friends, Green Flame Blade, and Booming Blade. Not a chance are we doing that. Friend, asking for trouble, but we'll take it. Green Flame Blade and Booming Blade are specialized builds. That is not a beginner character build. There's nothing beginner about that. Okay, so let's get the cantrips done. Firebolt. There it is. Learn that one. Cool. Got that one. Next, you said Friends. Can I find Friends? It probably won't list it. It'll probably be one of those options that I can't access unless I buy the thing. Don't have Friends on the list, so we can't put it in. Oh well, pick something else. What else? Mage Hand. Thank God, mage hand is an option. So that's why. That's two down. Always fun, always fun. Okay, we need 2 more cantrips. All right, hashtag pick. Can you see my list? It ain't that long. It's pretty short. It's not going to be that. Do not say true strike, people. I know it's tempting, but don't. Pick 2 more cantrips. Please do not take true strike. You need to know what you're doing if you're going to be using that one. Beginner. Yeah, firebolt, light, good. Now we're talking. Mage hand, good. Next, what else? Last one. What else would you like? We have minor illusions there. Prestidigitations there. We have, what else? What else is more utility and function? Remember how I said pick 1 damage dealing cantrip and the rest make them utility? Light, mage hand. We've got those already. We've got light and mage hand. One more. What else is there that's quite useful? Even dancing lights, surprisingly, can be quite useful. Mending's there. We've got mending. Very situational, but like there's pretty much no other spells that does something like that. There's very few. Message is actually pretty useful if you want to communicate with whoever's doing the scouting, if you've got somebody who likes to go off and do the scouting. I hate to say it, Mold Earth is pretty impressive. I should do a video on that topic. Shape Water is one of the most broken OP spells under the sun. The only reason I didn't mention it during my presentation is because you may not have access to the books. Prestidigitation, it is. Okay, Dynamancer, you've got it. Let's go Prestidigitation. That's the Swiss Army knife of Dungeons and Dragons spells. Like, there we go. Right, now we need to actually select 2 first level spells. And I believe somebody might have already picked those for us way back. Find Familiar, Mage Armor. No point taking Mage Armor because we're a Draconic Bloodline. The formula would be exactly the same. And Draconic Bloodline doesn't turn off after 8 hours, so we don't need to worry about that. But Find Familiar and Magic Missile, actually not a bad idea. If I could find Familiar on our list. Apparently it's one of those things I have to pay for. So Magic Missile is there. So we can take that. And you said Shield. We can take Shield as well, if you like. But there is also Sleep. I know it won't last forever, but there's Shield. We can take Shield. That'll make us pretty survivable. Even Charm Person is quite a useful one. Like, you know, as soon as you start looking at utility spells, it does change things a lot. But that'll keep us alive for a fairly decent amount of time. No Mage Armor. Shield is fine. Yeah, we've used up all our cantrips, so Spirit Wolf is a bit too late. I got Prestidigitation down. Sleep, yeah, it's a good spell. Okay, so that's fine. Look, we're a first level. We'll get more later. Don't worry. It's not the end of the road. We do get more spells as we level up. It does happen. Okay, now that we've done that bit, let us deal with the next access point, which is our equipment. And thank God I've moved my head to the other side. You can actually, like, I was looking back and it's like, I'm talking about all this stuff and they can't actually see what I'm talking about. Like, they can't see any of that. It's all very well when the whole screen, all the information is right down the center and there's big spaces on the side, but it's not so useful when we get to the expanded look, which I need because my eyes are old. Having a reaction to cast, yes. Okay, so now let's deal with our equipment. We've got our spells. You can see all the maths for our cantrips are in place. We don't need to make any kind of dice rolls for Light, Mage Hand, or Prestidigitation, but the calculation for Firebolt is already done for us. It's a +5 to hit and 1d10 damage at first level. Already figured out. Gives us the range. We're all good. And that's the spells. And then it lists how our Magic Missile works. You'll see there's no attack bonus for Magic Missile. It always hits. If you can see it, you can hit it. If you can't see it, you can't hit it. And it does 1d4 plus 1. You need to do that 3 times, because it's dependent. At first level you'll get 3 darts, and at higher levels you get more darts. Okay, right, let's deal with the actions, because this will break down how our weapons work. Come on, baby. That's there, and then we scroll up a little bit. There we go. So you can see it. Because we actually are wielding them, it does the calculation for us. We can see what our attack bonus is for the crossbow, light crossbow, how much damage it does, what the dagger does. Okay, and an unarmed strike, it shows us how that works as well, in terms of attack. Now, yeah, here's the thing. I think the calculation for the fist may be a little bit out, because it's not quite right. It's usually 1 plus your strength modifier. Here's our biggest problem with the build that we just made. Our strength modifier is a -1. Okay? We actually gave ourselves a -1 to strength. That means that if you try to hit something, even if it was a +1 with an unarmed strike, which it shouldn't be, it should be higher than that. Is it? No, that takes in consideration the proficiency bonus. Not only we are very unlikely to actually hit the target because we only have a +1 to hit, we do no damage even if we do hit. So never punch anybody with this character, okay? If you try going all monk on somebody with a -1 or an 8 in your strength, and you start punching with your fists, you won't achieve anything whatsoever. Use grapple or shove if you absolutely must, but I best not to. Anyway, that gives us the basics around that. Let's do our inventory, because last time we spent a lot of money. Gives us all of our little different bits and pieces here. Can we turn that on? Yep, we can. It's in. It's done. It's on. It gives us some gear. We don't have attunement to worry about because we don't have any magic items. One of the first things I always recommend to everybody when you're building your character is get yourself a healer's kit. Why? Because you can use it 10 times. You do need to replace it eventually. It's only 5 gold, and it means that you can stabilize a dying creature, one of your allies, which is probably going to happen at some point, without making a medicine check. It's automatically successful if you have a healer's kit. So get yourself the healer's kit and spend that money. So let's go in here and type in healer's kit. Healer's kit. There it is. We're going to add that. Add it to the pack. It's in. We need to spend some money. So go down to currency, because it was 5 gold to actually purchase. So go currency. And 5. And we're going to remove 5 gold. So we now only have 5 gold left. Rent a strong man to carry and to punch things for you. Yes, you could. I believe somebody who's unskilled is like is it a gold piece a day or something like that? And then 2 gold pieces for somebody who's skilled. So chalk. All right, so this is the fun bit. You guys can throw some items in here, and I will try to add them. Okay, because like, you know me, I'm all about the chalk. We just can't get the strong man today. Chalk. Chalk. There it is. Piece of chalk. So a piece of chalk's pretty cheap. It's pretty cheap. It's not going to be that expensive. All right, so we'll add the item. Where is it? There. Add item. Add to the pack. Done. Got the chalk. Bag of flour. I don't know if you've got a bag of flour in as an option. A 4-meter pole. You mean a 10-foot pole? We can get the 10-foot pole. That's not a problem. Now where was I? I've gotten lost. It does happen, people. I've gotten lost. So chalk. How much was chalk again? Chalk. 1 piece of chalk. 5 gold. 1 copper. Good Lord. Why are we getting just 1 piece? One piece of chalk? Let's get a box. Come on. 9. That's 10. 10 of them. 10 pieces of chalk. Everybody can have chalk in my game. Yeah, we're not a chalkless group, this one. um, okay. Be warned, people, at this point, usually things go downhill. Okay, 10 copper. 10 copper. So this copper. 10 copper, remove it. Done. Okay. Let's go back. And somebody said something about a 4 meter pole, which is the 10-foot pole. So 10-foot pole. 10-foot pole. No? Is it not in there? I thought it was. Apparently not. I'll tell you what. We will make ourselves a 10-foot pole with our dagger from a branch. Okay? Alright. Because I can't find it. A horn. Can we find a horn? Hopefully. Horn. Yes, there is. There is a horn. The horn is three gold pieces. Let's just buy it anyway. I know it's expensive, but who cares? And then add to the pack. 3 gold. I'm going to spend all our money today. You're going to be very, very poor, people. Very poor. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. I think that can be done. Have we got any money left? We've got 2 gold left. Oh, it's going to be rough. Cold weather clothing. Would be very sensible. I don't know if we've got enough money for cold weather clothing, though. Clothing. Fine clothing. I think most clothing is much more expensive than that. Clothing. Traveler's clothing, we can get traveler's clothing, but you probably got clothes on already. You're going to have to kill a bear, and that will be your cold weather clothing. Okay, so... because there's no way we can afford it. A woodcutter axe. An axe, we might be able to afford an axe. Let's go back. This is me just getting silly now. For those of you who are signing in to actually build your character, at this point, it's usually when I start doing the equipment that things start to go haywire. So feel free to hang around as we goof a bit. Or just like, no, I've had enough. I understand. Okay, there is a bit of goofing going on. An axe. Can I get an axe? Doesn't say axe anywhere. Why can't I find an axe? Does it say woodcutter's axe? It's not an option. I'm going to have to negotiate with my dungeon master. Okay. Oh, somebody said the sickle. Oh, good lord. Can we afford a sickle? Sickle. It's not looking good, mate. It's not looking good. I don't know. 1 gold. You are so lucky. Spirit Wolf, you are so lucky. We'll get that. That's part of our equipment. We've got a sickle now. That's the one, and we'll have to spend the money. It's 1 gold. Remove it. We've only got 1 gold left. Trade in 5 silver for 10 copper. No, we're not doing that. I'm not going to trade in silver to get copper pieces. What? So we look like we've got more. I suppose you're trying to get lower denomination. That's where Dynamancer is going with this. Is what you do is you try to carry lower denomination coins so you can throw them up into the air in a crowd when you need to run away and have the guards not be able to pursue you because all of the townsfolk are getting in the way as they try to grab all the copper pieces. Or to use them for various things like bribery and maybe casting light on and dropping down a well and all that sort of thing. You can use a rock for that sort of stuff. Steal an axe. Yes, you have to steal an axe, baby. Manually. Yeah. Yep. Jeff. Hello, Jeff. Jeff Scarborough. Manually. Now, I wonder if I can add in manually. I haven't actually done a manual entry for equipment in the past. Custom item. Here we go. Well, custom item. Here we go. I'm not even going to give it a price. I'm just going to go woodcutter's axe. Wood cutter axe. Yep. We stole that from the villagers. Thank you very much. And we'll add the item to our equipment. And we can have a 10-foot pole since there's no 10-foot pole in here. 10-foot pole. Every tree has got 10-foot poles covering it. It's just a matter of making sure that it doesn't have leaves on it. Here we go. We add that in as well. 10-foot pole, add to equipment. There you go. Didn't cost us a thing. Yeah, large. Yeah, I understand where you're going with that. So absolutely. Okay, so we've just found the manual entry section, or something like that. Okay, so there's your character. Now, even though you get here, I mean, you don't want to bother. I mean, nobody really wants to know about your character, so don't share it with people because they don't care. There are options for doing stuff here, but no, don't worry about it. You can go to the builder, but you can export this thing if you need to. There are various options for doing that. But we've done it. We've built a character. Well done. Good news. Ah, dear. There are times when I do these sorts of things that I suspect that I have issues. But we got there. It's all there. All the information that you need is where you need it to be, so it's done. But I have to say, it is super, super funny that if we try to punch anything with our fists, not only do we only get a +1 to hit, we will do no damage whatsoever. And it's one of the reasons why I try to avoid putting negatives into a character that is supposed to be essentially a superhero. But look, if you're all right with it, great. It's not the end of the world. You are welcome, chat, and you're welcome, Spirit Wolf. I am going to do my sign out thing. Before I say that, what is tomorrow? Tomorrow is supposed to be, now let me think, it's complex combat mechanics. That's all the stuff I haven't covered in the past. Like last week we did the basic combat mechanics, and we've done basic game mechanics, but tomorrow is the complex combat mechanics. What is that? That's hiding, the ready action, that's grapple, that's shove, that's death saving throws, that's cover. All of that I'll be covering with cover. That's what I'm going to do tomorrow. Okay, so that's the stream for that day. And the day after, have you heard of a werewolf? Of course you've heard of a werewolf. Like, I'm sure you've all heard of a werewolf. I'm going to really confuse you because on my Friday, your Thursday, if you're in North America, I'm going to talk about the wolf wear. It's like, Fred, did you just reverse the name? And no, it does actually exist. Okay, so tomorrow, complex combat mechanics. The day after, the wolfware, monster lore. You may know about it, you may not. I have checked, nobody's done a video on the topic on YouTube, including AJ Pickett. So, as far as I can tell, I may be entering new territory. In fact, I think every time I do monster lore, I do enter new territory. Okay. Yes, it has been extremely fun. It's been way too much fun. I have to say, near the end there, I was having so much fun, I suspected that things were going off track. But look, that's the deal. That's how we've done it. We will be back next week to do more character building for those of you who need it or want it. It is going to continue. I have been keeping an eye on the searches that you're making on my channel, so I am aware of what you're after. So thank you to my patrons. Thank you to everybody who's been watching my live streams and my videos. I do appreciate it. It makes a big difference. And wherever you are in the world, whether it be the morning, the afternoon, or the night, or the wee early morning, please look after yourself, your family, and your friends. Be nice to your neighbours. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.